that, imagine you would shift the world. If the world stopped suffering, just imagine what would happen.
Well, she says, all war begins at defense.
Oh, yeah.
Once you try to defend yourself, once you try to, it was the reason sort of that I walked off the View, right? Without, a big, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm just going to go away. Now, in the interim, do I replay what happened and think, yeah, and am I able to be sort of at peace with it and just let it go? There are moments when I am, but there are other moments where, I get like, oh, right? But how the initial impetus for doing it the way I did was because I did not want to make war with a pregnant young woman on national TV for money.
Right.
If you choose peace, you have to choose it over and over again.
Yeah.
Even with the breakup with Kelly, which, was a difficult thing to do. But, you have to choose for it to be peaceful. You have to engage for it to be a war.
Right.
There are ways to choose, right? Not saying, oh, look, I did it so great, or it was pain-free. Believe me, it was not pain-free.
Right.
But it was working, both of us, to try to work in peace, as opposed to, trying to be right or to engage in blame or, listen, nobody gets out unscathed, right?
Right.
But at least if you have a map in your head of how you want to live, of the concept that it is possible to live in peace and without suffering, then, how do you apply it? And the work is the application of the concept.
Yeah, on so many levels. On so many levels, we do choose our own reality. I know I said the other day that I took EST in the late 70s, Earhart sensitivity training, and they said it would transform the quality of your life, and it did. And it was the simplest little thing after this 3-day, long-hour thing, and it was that you are responsible. When you accept complete that was this program, when you are completely responsible, and they said something that was so profound to me, is that you can take responsibility for things you didn't do. Just take responsibility. Once you're responsible, then you're in the control seat.
Well, here's what she says. There are 3 kinds of business. Your business, someone else's business, and God's business. And you have only the right to be in your own. So if you obsess about war, about the oil spill, that's God's business. That is not your business. That is not yours to try to, it doesn't mean that you can't care and have compassion and help, but to consume your brain with the thought of that is just making you suffer.
Right.
Right? So that's not my business. There's nothing I can do. I can have care and compassion. I can try to, live my life in a manner that, I can do what I can, but to try to defend the injustice. I'm going to defend those people. You're engaging in a war, right?
Right. Or can't you even do that from a different standpoint, to speak for people and do the job? I think this is what you're saying, to do what you can in a real way that makes a difference, but not do it from a position that destroys yourself and causes yourself suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
That I don't know. Well, I'll ask her, because, those are the things that I'm, I get really caught, and what spirals me down? World catastrophe, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, because I don't spiral down, and I find interest in it and blah, blah, blah. But the way you connect to it, and I would love to hear some insight on how you can stop that.
Yeah, because I want to stop it.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is going to be helpful for you.
Well, I instinctively knew it when I saw her face, which is kind of a weird thing.
She's gorgeous.
I think she's beautiful. Right?
Yeah.
She's 20 years older than me, 68 years old. Absolutely. I love the way she dresses. I love the way she looks. I love her gray-white hair. I don't know. She's beautiful. And there's something about her presence that I'm totally drawn to.
Yeah.
I feel like if she was a cult leader, I would be drinking the Kool-Aid, I don't know. So she's here today. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to kick all you guys out, and we'll go from there.
And you're going to do the work.
I'm going to do the work, because I'm very thankful that she came here to do the work with me. Very, very kind and overwhelming. And I have such a victim mentality that I think, oh my God, I hope I'm worthy. I hope that, why is she doing this for me? Why? Well, this is what she does.
God, I love that you have that thought.
Yeah,
is
I do.
It true?
Is it true?
Are you 100% certain?
Well, that's right. Exactly.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like honestly, how does it make me feel that she's coming here? Overwhelmingly moved. I'm very touched by it, right? I'm overwhelmingly moved by the fact that she would come here. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little surprised by it, right? But it has to be what is bothering. That's not something that's bothering me. Right. That's a good thought, right? She's like, you can leave the good thoughts alone. Leave them in there. Right? It's the ones that I'm not worthy. Yeah. I'm not good enough. What
you think you're not doing, Like
there was a woman said, I need my sister to include me in family events. She doesn't talk to me anymore. Do you really need your sister to do that? Are you 100% sure you need her to do that?
Right.
You need her to do that. How do you feel when what do you feel about your sister? She's neurotic. She's this, she's that. Okay, turn it around. Oh, right. What do you mean? Turn it around. She said to her, it's like, I am neurotic and I need to, yeah, right. Yeah. It's not, you don't need someone else to do something. That's not your business.
Right. Well, sometimes people think that I'm afraid I'm one of these people that will use a negative thought as a motivator because you think that you need to flog yourself with that
Victims
thought.
Are violent people.
Right. I don't work hard enough. And if I don't believe that I don't work hard enough, maybe I won't. Therefore, I know that that's one thing I don't work hard enough. You know what I mean? That is, and to turn that around, to be willing to let go of that idea. Right. And then who would you be? But, it's the idea, but I mean, I literally do. I use that as a motivator because I say something negative about myself because I think it will make me work harder. This is going to be enlightening, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, so stay tuned. The Work with Byron Katie right after this break.
Rosie Radio. Rosie Radio.
Okay, so I have been talking sort of incessantly about this woman, Byron Katie, who I found on the internet, and really kind of fell in love with you, Byron Katie. And then I was talking to some people at the Oprah Network about my new program there, and then I said, I would really love to meet that woman, Byron Katie, and ta-da, here you are. So first, thank you.
Thank you for beaming me in.
Well, thank you for showing up. Your story fascinates me, and in some way that I don't really know how to articulate, I feel so unbelievably drawn to your face.
Yeah.
Have you heard this before?
I have. It's like before the work found me, what I do, I call it the work. And my eyes were like dead. And then all of a sudden, this shift in eyes. And the opposite of suffering, it shows.
It does show. And it shows through photographs. It shows through... And there are many beautiful people in the world, right? So it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to do with your aesthetic beauty, which there is. It has to do with what you're talking about. There was almost a force that I felt coming from you.
Yeah, I get to hear that a lot.
Now, the story of how you came into sort of being in the world as you are now is so fascinating and so full of hope. In a way that I feel if you haven't walked the walk, it's hard to believe somebody teaching you. But you lived it, right?
Yeah, I did.
You were 43 years old and you were in a halfway house for addictions? For what?
It's the only thing that my insurance company would cover. I wanted help. And there was some point I knew, I was so suicidal. I knew I needed some kind of help.
Were you that way your whole life?
I can't remember a time ever feeling at home in myself, ever, until the work found me.
But when you were a child, you were Irish Catholic, you look it? Are you Irish Catholic? Are you either of those things, or were you?
My mother told me I was Irish all my life, like English, Irish, something else. And then I applied for, at some point, I wanted to apply for a passport in Ireland so I'd have, dual
citizenship.
And I called my mother for information, and she said, well, Katie, you're not Irish. And so in that moment, I was Irish all my life, and all of a sudden I wasn't. And reality shifts,
Believing the story.
Yeah.
Here was your story, that you were Irish. Mm-hmm. You sure do look Irish.
Well, it could be.
Could be that's how I see you, because that's a familiar feeling or ethnicity for me, right?
And I very well could be. What does my mother know?
Right.
Her mother maybe told her. Who knows what?
You were one of how many children?
3.
And you were raised in what state?
In California, Southern California.
And was it a happy childhood, if there is such a thing?
You know, for me, no, really pretty miserable with no reason for it. No reason. I had parents that did all the right things, a brother and sister, we went to school, we did, all the right things. But what I was believing along the way, I was just seriously full of confusion, and then eventually it just shifted into kind of a self-hatred.
And confusion, you say, is the cause of all suffering in the world.
Confusion is the only suffering. That's it.
Now, while you were in this suffering, did you try ways to get out? Did you try like a 12-step?
Oh, my goodness. No, what I tried was alcohol, drugs, and mainly for me, food. Yeah. The rest of it was secondary to that.
And did you try to get a handle on your food issues before this happened at 43, which we're going to talk about? You tried to sort of do all of the programs that all of us who are overweight have tried?
My earliest memories probably are my mother talking about a diet with the neighbors.
For herself.
For herself and the neighbors. And my grandmother, is just a background of diet after diet after diet.
So it was something you had struggled with your whole life?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're married, you have 3 children, and you are not able to get out of bed.
Yeah. Very depressed at some point, very agoraphobic, very paranoid. Used to sleep with a gun under my pillow, and that's pretty paranoid. A gun under my bed. And I remember we had like a brass thing that the mailman lifted up and put the mail in, and it would drop to the floor inside the house.
Right.
And I remember, when I think back on it, Rosie, I don't know what stopped me from killing him, because he touched my house. I was that whacked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did people try to do interventions for you? Did people, your friends and family, come in and say, "Hey, Katie, you got to get your shit together here"?
No, they were just kind and loving, and also probably drop the probably, just too intimidated to really approach me.
Because all the power that you have now in the clarity, I assumed you had in the suffering. You were pretty good at it.
I was very good at it.
You were a big presence in that.
Yeah, you can ask my children. Oh my goodness, I found the work, and they are so grateful.
How old were they when this happened? This happened to you when you were 43. So your kids were in their teens?
Yeah, my daughter was just about 16, and then the next Ross was 2 years older, and then Bob 4 years older than Ross.
And you had been sort of unavailable for most of their childhood.
Well, it's so funny. Yes and no. It's like if I had the right mixture of stuff going on, I was just this manic mother, just, the football mother, the baseball mother, all of that.
So you were highly competent, but then you had really low lows.
Yeah.
Right. So did they say you were manic depressive and want to put you on bipolar stuff?
Well, that wasn't really going on then, or at least in my world.
Right.
And so I called the insurance company, and I tell you what happened, Rosie. I was watching television, which was most of my life, in bed, doors shut, all this food around, and lots of drugs. I was in so much pain that my husband at the time, he had several heart attacks. No wonder married to me.
Oh.
And he would just give me codeine, just because I thought it was physical pain.
You did.
But it was emotional. I was convinced it was physical pain. So I was watching television, and this at that time, television was just full of, obesity. You can come to this hospital, and then they would show the interviews of all these people that had lost all this weight. And so I thought, that's it. That's what I need, after probably a couple of years of watching this kind of advertisement. And so suicidal. So I called the